All right, Ryan, let's take a look at your swing from the other day in the golf shop. On the left, I have your swing before I worked with you, first swing you took when you came in, and on the right, I have your swing after we spent a little bit of time together. But let's just go ahead and just start by comparing sort of your setup positions here. If you'll notice on the left, you have your weight sort of predominantly on your right side. You have the handle of the golf club sort of leaning away from the target. It's either vertical or slightly, leaning away from the target. All of these things, weight back, handle back, produce a low point moving back, in this direction. Oh, that's where your fat shots come from. That's where your thin shots come from. Not to mention what it does to the path at which your golf club is traveling in. From this setup position, your path is going to typically be, across the ball to the left, and from there we can hit, pull hooks, straight pulls, and pull cuts. So those are not very desirable ball flights. So the first thing that we taught you to do was we got your feet flared out, about 30 degrees in each direction here. If you look on the right, that's going to be pretty much a staple of your setup, because that's, as we talked, that's going to help you unlock sort of that linear range of motion and allow you to turn your hips more freely. We also got your weight forward, and remember how we did that. We did that just by simply sliding your hip toward the target, not moving your entire body mass toward the target, only your hip. And what you'll notice, what that does is it gives you what we call axis tilt. You can see your spine is now tilted away from the target. That's imperative. That axis tilt is imperative in allowing the club to come from the inside and produce sort of an in to out swing path. Okay, so weight forward, handle forward, feet flared out. That's your new starting position. If you take a look at the video here on the left, I'm just going to kind of play that through for you really quickly. I'm going to draw a little box here that's going to show you where your body mass is in relation to the golf ball throughout your swing. You can see how on the right you've got much more weight forward, and that's an indicator, because the box starts down around your ankles and extends up to the top of your head, and it shows you where your center of mass is confined throughout the swing. But on the left here, we start to take the club away. Not a lot of lateral motion, lateral move away from the golf ball, but it's the biggest issue that I see here in this takeaway is the excessive rolling of this left forearm. Okay, what do I mean by that is you can get the club back to the inside in one of two ways. You can actually move your arm to the inside, or you can roll your left forearm. Okay, now you're rolling your left forearm because if you'll notice down here, look at how much of your glove, the logo on your glove, I can see. Okay, now just as the club moves a couple of inches, now look how much of your logo I can see. I can see almost all of it, and then more and more and more and more, more. I mean, you are excessively rolling your left arm, and what that's doing is putting the club in a flat, laid-off position. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to feel, as you take the club away, you have less left arm roll, but you have more cocking of the left wrist. So in this position, we'd want the shaft somewhere in sort of in this area, and that's simply because you'd be cocking your left wrist vertically quicker, not rolling the left forearm in. As you get to the top, you start down, your hips push forward nicely, you get your weight kind of back on your left side, but I want you to notice what your knees are doing. Okay, your knees are sort of pinching in towards each other from right here. Well, that is really going to kill any ability you may have of sliding your hips forward in the downswing. And remember, that hip slide is imperative, because we're trying to get 85 to 90% of your weight back on your left side at impact. As the club comes on down, notice how, I mean, the hips are just not pushing forward at all. The left knee is actually straightening too soon. It's locked out right now. The left knee is locked out before the club even reaches the ball. Now, the second that your hips stop sliding forward and the left knee straightens and locks, your hip actually moves backwards. And when the hip moves backwards, the wrist angles dump. See how you've got sort of a little bit of a flipping motion going on through impact here? Well, that flip is happening because, number one, the left knee straightened too soon. Number two, the hips did not push forward. And then number three, the shoulders stopped turning. Once the shoulders stop turning, the wrist angles are going to dump every single time. So there's your impact position. On the right, we started working on, number one, extending your spine a little bit in the backswing. I explained to you the concept of the side tilt and the side bend, and how that was going to help you turn your shoulders, more in a circle and allow you to keep your weight more centered on the backswing. Did a really nice job with that. Right knee straightening, left knee flexing. I mean, you've got a beautiful vertical axis right here. You should have no low point issues whatsoever. Now, as you start down, notice how much more your hips are pushing forward. Still got a little bit of an issue with the left knee straightening too soon, but the hips are pushing forward in a much better fashion, and we've actually got a little bit better impact alignments here. A little bit more forward shaft lean. The handle of the golf club is actually a little bit closer to your left thigh than over here on the left, and just much better overall extension through the golf ball versus on the left. See how on the left elbow is starting to bend and break, right arm is bending, left wrist is breaking down. Much more extension here. Weight all on the left side. So here's the keys for you, man. This is the biggest thing you're going to have to learn. And I'm going to put up another video in just a second to give you a demonstration of how to do it. But you've got to learn that from the top, the swing starts from the ground up. So the first move down is the left knee should reestablish its address position. It should move forward. From there, the left hip has to move considerably forward. And what that is going to do is it's going to kick in axis tilt. And that axis tilt will be in your spine. And your spine will look more like this at impact. Alright, take a look at this player that I have here on the left. I want you to watch his lower body action. As the club moves away, player stays very centered. No weight shift to the right. But before his club even starts to stall at the top, notice how he's compressing into his left leg and his hips have already started to move forward. This is a very delicate move, and he's probably the best in the world at it. But I want you to notice how far forward his hips push in the downswing. They're just pushing forward incrementally as the club is dropping. And then when he gets right outside his left foot, he can stop. So once he's pushed his hips as far forward as they need to go, you'll notice the club is now shallow enough that he can maintain his wrist angles. He can maintain a forward-leaning shaft and extension through the golf ball. But all the while he's pushing forward, he's also jumping. He's jumping and tucking his tailbone and extending his spine. That's where we've got to get you working on this move a little bit. So Ryan, in conclusion, here's a drill that I want you to do to sort of work on here. And this is something I was doing in the shop with you the other day. But notice how I'm sort of posing or exaggerating this position of my arms being straight, my left wrist being sort of bowed back, right wrist sort of bent back here. That motion I want you to rehearse, get a feeling for, And then I want you to execute this drill where your left arm goes, once you get your setup position, weight forward, handle forward, the left arm goes about parallel to the ground. But watch now how I push my hips forward, get into my left side, and how at impact I've got a lot of forward shaft lean, flat left wrist. And that allows me to keep my arms extended through the shot. We've got to get you into that position. Notice the difference. Notice how your right hand is crossed over the top of your left versus mine. I've got a much slower rate of closure of the face, and I'm never gonna hit a big nasty hook with this motion that I've got. Remember, we're not hitting a draw because we're shutting the face at impact. We're hitting a draw because the face is closed relative to the path. You don't need to roll the face over and snap the face shut like you're doing here in this position. But anyways, I hope this helps you. Give me a call if you have any questions.